Hi, I'm Christine. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here with my 5-star reads for July through September of 2024. All right, so I've been doing these quarterly 5-star favorites for the whole year, and I have loved doing it. It is just so much fun. So I do already have one up for my January through March 5-star reads, and then I have one for April through June. So now we are on part 3, which is July through September. So this is just a fun way to kind of highlight and talk about my favorites, the top tier, the ones that I gave 5 stars to throughout the year. So like I said, we're doing July, August, and September right now, and these are for like my true 5-star reads. So these are not ones that I gave 4.5 stars to, but rounded up. These are not rereads that I already loved. These are all like brand new 5-star reads for me. So let's get into it. All right, for July, I ended up having 3 5-star reads. So let's get into them. First up was Dawn of Flames by Tessa Hale. I absolutely love this entire series so much. So this is book 3 in the Dragons of Ember Hollow series. So unfortunately, you can't read this as a standalone. You definitely have to read the entire series, but they are on the shorter side. And I promise you, it is so good. I ate this one up and loved it so much. The entire series follows the same characters. So like I said, they kind of leave off on cliffhangers. You have to read the next book, and book 3 is the final book in their series. So these are dragon shifters, why choose, paranormal, kind of romantic-y type vibes. So good. So good. Like if you're not a why choose person, I highly recommend trying this series out or this author out, because I feel like her why choose romances just work so well because each of the heroes are so unique and different. And so you're really rooting for all of this entire group to be together instead of like just secretly wishing she gets with one of the guys only. So definitely promise it is so good. Highly recommend it. This is the third and final conclusion to the series, so I can't say too much about it just because like I said, they all kind of are continuation, but I promise it's so good. And look how stinking pretty this is with the sprayed edges and the special edition. These were sent to me from the author, which I just absolutely am obsessed with these editions and so thankful to have them on my shelves. Next up is Business Casual. This is by B.K. Borison. This is the 4th and final book in the Lovelight Farm series, and I love this entire series so much. I'm pretty sure all the books have been 4 or 5 stars for me. I think the last 3 were all 5 stars for me, and book 1 was 4 stars, but either way, this entire series is so good. This entire series takes place at the same small town set at this Lovelight Farms location, and this one is an opposites attract, grumpy sunshine, kind of starts off with like a friends with benefits situation. So this one was super fun. I loved the heroine here. She's always been very independent. She's trying to open her own tattoo shop, or her tattoo shop back in her hometown. And so she's trying to do that. And so the hero in this one, he's actually the brother of one of her friends, which is the heroine of book 1. So they're all at that couple's wedding. And so the hero in here, he's always been like super flirty and charming towards the heroine. In particular, he's always kind of tried to, you know, flirt with her and be like, we should hook up. And she's always been like not interested. So now at the wedding, her sister ends up telling her, hey, you should like let loose and just have fun. Like you're so focused on yourself, your independence, your business, but like have some fun every now and then. So she kind of like propositions him instead at the wedding, totally throws him off. And he's like, wait, what? Like you want to go for this? I've been teasing you, flirting with you for so long. And so then he's kind of like taken aback. I'm like, but wait a minute. Like I actually like want you. I don't want to just like hook up with you. So it kind of goes from there, and like he's in town because he's going to be taking care of Lovelight Farms while his sister and a new brother-in-law are away on their honeymoon. And so they're going to be around one another because I think the hero, I want to say he's like from New York or something. He's like an investment banker. So like he's not from the small town where they live, but he's going to be there for the time that she's there setting up her business as well. This one is just so good. I love kind of the heroines who have a harder exterior around them, and the heroine here has to like kind of break down her walls. It's just so good. This entire series is so good. I highly recommend. I love this author's books so much. All right, and then my last favorite from June was Playbook by Rebecca Jinshak. I had an arc of this one and absolutely ate this book up. I loved it so much. This is the 2nd book in her Holland Brothers series, so it is a follow-up to Burnout, which was also on my favorites list earlier this year. And I just love this one, honestly, even more. Like the other one was already 5 stars, but this one like blew it out of the water. It was so good. It's actually one of my favorite books of the year. Like I just connected with this couple so much. This one is a sports romance. The hero is a pro football player. We have fake dating, and it's fake dating done right, where like the fake dating is a very much an aspect of the story and it's not like glossed over really quickly, which I love. And it's just so much fun. I love the banter between them. Like Rebecca Jinshak just writes banter so well, and this series in particular I feel like really highlights it, and it's so good. I eat banter up. So this one has a really fun setup. So the heroine here, she opens up a P.O. box, and without her knowing, she took over the P.O. box that the hero previously had. Like her P.O. box and his were the same number. So she's still getting some of his fan mail, not realizing it's for a football player. It's just like addressed to the hero. People are sending like underwear and just like love letters and highly perfumed notes to him and just all of these things. So she ends up actually going to a bar and she ends up hearing somebody talking about Six, the hero, and she goes up to him and is like, wait a minute, are you Brogan Six, the guy who I've been getting all this annoying like fan mail for? So I love how she is instantly the one kind of confronting him, and then he is kind of taken aback because he's super into her and he loves like how she's yelling at him, and he's just like smitten from day one. So if you love Hero Falls First, definitely read this one as well. And so it ends up kind of going from there where he's trying to make amends. He ends up like offering her tickets for his football games and just trying to like get to know her. He starts writing her letters because she ignores him, and then they eventually end up texting. So then it does end up leading into fake dating because basically they are talking or bantering again, arguing somewhere, and her ex shows up, and she had told her family like she is dating somebody else. And so the hero kind of steps in and takes that part, which earlier in the book, the heroine had told her family, and her ex-boyfriend was there as well because her sister is marrying her ex-boyfriend's brother. And so now they're going to be kind of in-laws. And so she ends up telling everybody that she's dating and seeing somebody else because he brought a girlfriend or something like that. And so then the hero is the one who ends up stepping in and being her fake boyfriend. And it goes from there, and it is so good. Like I said, fake dating, bantery, just, ugh, I'm obsessed with this couple. I love them so much. Like I said, one of my favorites, probably one of my favorites of the summer actually, and definitely one of my favorites of the year. All right, and now on to August, which was my birthday month, and I had 6 5-star reads for August. So let's get into these. So I started off August with reading Quicksilver by Callie Hart, and I, like everybody else, was obsessed with this book and loved it so much. This is one of my new favorite fantasy romances of the year. I'm one of those people who love fantasy romances, but I love a good blend. I want an equal mix of romance, and I want an equal blend of the fantasy, the world building, the characters, the world, all of those things. And so while I love it and it's one of my favorite genres, I can also be super picky with it. And this one just like hit so right for me, and I had such a good time with it. This book was continuously on, I think it's still on the like top Kindle bestsellers in like the Amazon store. And so it has been picked up by a publisher, which no surprise because it was so hyped and talked about and beloved. So not surprised that somebody picked it up. So yeah, it's going to be having a traditional release coming soon as well. Honestly, I don't want to talk about this book too much because I feel like you'll enjoy it even more if you go in without knowing much, but it is so good. It has a little bit of like portals involved and kind of slipping into a different world. The characters in the world and the weapons and just the different things that are happening in this book, I was just really here for and had a good time with, which I know that was like the worst explanation of this book. But I promise if you go into it, you'll have a good time, especially if you love like fae, fantasy romances where the heroine's the one kind of figuring out more about the world and all the things along with you as the reader. Highly recommend. Really love this one. Next up is Delicate Escape by Catherine Cowles. This is the second book in the Sparrow Falls series, and I love Catherine Cowles' books so much. She blends small town and romantic suspense so well. So I highly recommend checking out this series. If you haven't yet, this is her current series that she's writing in. So like I said, this is only book 2. Book 3 comes out soon in November, and I can't wait. This book has a ton of my favorite tropes. So it's roommates to lovers, it's black cat, golden retriever energy, it has the hero falling first, romantic suspense vibes, found family, small town, slow burn, cinnamon roll, the heroine's on the run, she's in hiding, it has best friend's brother, just like all of the good things. I love it so much. The heroine in here, she has been in hiding / on the run for reasons, which you see kind of played out at the beginning of the story with the prologue, and you learn a little bit about her history. And so she has been living in Sparrow Falls for a couple of years now, and she just really wants to keep to herself, have her job, take care of her cat, and just kind of do all those things. And so the hero though has been into her for a while. They're kind of in the same friend circle, and he comes to the bakery a ton where she works at. He's also one of her friends / other co-workers' brother. And so like I said, they're always just like kind of around one another. And so she is wary of other men in general because of her backstory. And so the hero knows she's kind of more prickly and a little bit more careful about who she's around. And so he already knows that about her. And so basically in here, her pipes burst at her house. And so the hero ends up showing up at the right time. And he actually owns a construction company with his friend. And so he's like, I can help you out. And he realizes that he needs to take things slowly with her, not like just barge in and get up in her personal space. And so they slowly start spending time together over time because he's like, I want you to feel comfortable and safe with me. And it kind of goes from there. Their story is just so good and so precious. And I just really love this couple. I connected to them so much. These two are just perfect together. Highly recommend. Like I said, book 3 comes out in the series soon. So you have plenty of time to catch up on book 1 and 2, which by the way, I also gave both 5 stars. So highly recommend. All right, oops, I realized I just had the wrong book out earlier. So A Photo Finish by Elsie Silver is also one of my favorites, but I already talked about this one, I think in my April, May, June. So go watch that one. But we're gonna talk about A False Start, which is also by Elsie Silver and part of the Gold Rush Ranch series. This is book 4 in it, so it's the final book. There is, I think, a novella manga in the series as well, but this is like the final book in the series, and I loved this one. So the Gold Rush Ranch series is her first published series, but I feel like she gets more hype because of her Chestnut Springs series, which really blew off with Flawless and Heartless. Love a ton of books in that series as well, but this Gold Rush Ranch series I feel like is equally as good and kind of underrated. There are such gems in this series, so definitely recommend checking them out. They're recently getting re-releases, if you couldn't tell by these kind of covers styles, as well as they recently got audiobooks as well. So that's how I've been reading the series with the audios as they came out. So this one is a Small Town Age Gap Brother's Best Friend, and it is just so good. This one in here, I loved the couple. So she's more sassy and she is willing to just go like head to head with him a ton and banter with him, while he's kind of the more quiet, grumpy one. So in the beginning, we actually see these two meet initially and they kind of just like hit it off right away. Sparks fly. They end up impulsively sharing a kiss on this night out together, and then they go their separate ways. And then later on, she realizes that he is one of her brother's best friends. So this one, we see them spend a lot of time around one another. She works at the vet clinic with her sister-in-law. And like I said, the hero in here is also best friends with her brother. And so they are around one another a lot. And then they realize over time that they actually have a lot of connections and kind of connect over their emotional kind of past together and some trauma from their lives. The hero was a pro football player who is still kind of struggling with his past. I remember in here he has a stutter, and the heroine in here has like some traumatic things that happen in her family and her past as well. This one, like I said, the hero is kind of more gruff and grumpy and kind of keeps to himself, but I love how he has really sweet moments as well, and it shows the heroine his appreciation for her by like doing things for her. So he like buys her a former racehorse who they find out somebody's about to put the horse down, so he ends up buying it for the heroine and gifting it to her. This one, like I said, has age gap, so I think the heroine was like 21 and the hero I want to say is more 35 range, and I just love in here how she's kind of more of a brat and gives him a hard time, but he like secretly loves it and is into it, and they just work really well together. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. Like I said, if you haven't picked up the Gold Rush Ranch series, I highly recommend. All right, next up is Bourbon and Lies by Victoria Wilder. First of all, I am obsessed with this cover, and I am so obsessed with this book. This was my favorite read in August. I loved it so much. This is small town romantic suspense. This one takes place in Kentucky at a bourbon kind of business, a family-owned bourbon business. And so it kind of has westerny type of ranch type of vibes, but like it's on a bourbon business, but like they own a lot of land. The heroine jokingly refers to the hero as cowboy, kind of all of those things. So like I said, this one is a romantic suspense, and so it has kind of like some darker elements to it, which I really enjoy with my romantic suspense books. So in here we see the heroine is on the run and she's put into witness protection, and they kind of drop her off at the hero's family's business slash ranch. I'm just going to refer to it as a ranch, in the middle of the night. And so the hero finds out about her the next day, and so at first he assumes that she is there with his brother, and so he's like, I don't want anything to do with her because she's obviously like been with my brother. I don't need to get with her. But of course that's not the case, and so he realizes that over time. And so the heroine ends up moving into like the house right across from him on his family's property. She starts working at the bourbon business with him, so she's always around. We have that forced proximity, and it kind of goes from there, where the hero in here, he was a former cop, and so he's already kind of like suspicious about how she came to be there, why she was dropped off, why she's kind of secretive, but he's also super into her, which I loved. And then same with the heroine, she's really pulled to the hero. She wants to open up to him, but also like she is afraid to because of things in her past slash why she's in witness protection. And so it kind of goes from there with them struggling with like their feelings, but also like, do they want to go there? And she's also like, I'm not going to be here permanently. It is so good. The romantic suspense kicks in as well. I love this one so much, and I'm so excited for the next books in the series from this author. Highly, highly recommend. All right, I was just in like a romantic suspense vibe in August, and so this was another one of my favorites. So this is Broken Beginnings by Cleo Evans. So this author usually writes monster romances, but this is her first foray into like small town romantic suspense, and I was here for it. So this one, the heroine was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She ends up witnessing a murder happen, where it literally happens in her lap in her apartment building hallway. And so the killer at the time ends up telling her like, you're next, watch out, kind of things like that. And so she gets spooked out, which rightfully so, and decides to take off back to her small town in Texas. And so when she gets there, she ends up running into the hero, who was her bully in high school. So at first you're going to totally hate the hero, which I did too, but he honestly does redeem himself, and he is so like, he goes above and beyond to kind of make amends to her and apologize profusely. And I was here for his trying to like get into her good graces. So in this one, the hero's family, they own a vineyard, and he just recently opened up like a winery at the vineyard. And so the heroine ends up working there, and so they're around one another a lot. The romantic suspense elements come back in. This one's definitely more on the steamy side because that's just what this author writes, but I really enjoyed it and had such a good time. I'm really excited for the next book in the series because I believe it's going to be MMF with a single mom, and I'm excited to see where this entire series goes. The covers for both of these are honestly so stinking pretty. If you want more romantic suspense book recommendations, recommendations. These and a bunch of others I recommended in a video recently, which I will link in the description of the video. All right, and then my last favorite of August was Beating Heart by Laura Pavlov. So this is book 4 in her Magnolia Falls series, and I love this one so much. This is a single dad romance. The heroine is a new pediatrician in town. She's also their new neighbor, and the hero's son, Beefcake, in here totally steals the show. If you've read the series, you've seen him mentioned a ton and throughout the series, and so this is finally not really his book, but it's kind of his book as well with his father. So in here, like I said, the hero is a single dad, and we've seen him featured throughout the series. The whole series kind of follows this found family friend group, which I just absolutely love them so much. And so in here, the hero and his son are at a doctor's appointment because his young son has asthma. And so the hero is very protective, rightfully so, for his son and for his health care. And so he finds out that the heroine is the new doctor in town and their beloved doctor is leaving. And so the hero is like, I'm not okay with this. Like, is she even gonna know how to take care of my son? So he's kind of like wary about her in the beginning, but his son is super taken with her, and obviously she's really good at her job, and she ends up moving in right next door to them, so she's around a ton, and we get that forced proximity, and the hero starts to feel bad because his son really likes her, he is really liking her, and so it kind of goes from there with them becoming friends and just all of that. So I love this whole series, definitely recommend. Laura Pavlov writes Small Town so well, highly recommend the whole series, honestly. All right, and then in September I had one 5-star read for the month, so that is Homegoing by Ya Jessie. So this is actually a historical fiction that I read for the historical fiction readathon, because I do host a historical fiction book club with my friend Tori from Novel Life, that we have a monthly book club. We read historical fictions, and we decided to do a readathon in September, and so this was one of my picks for the readathon, and I absolutely loved this book so much. So this book was a debut by the author. It had been on my TBR for quite some time, and I'm so glad I finally got to it. The storytelling was so unique. It's definitely heavy and harder themes to deal with, which I feel like is kind of common with historical fiction books. In this book in particular, we end up spanning 300 years with one family, so it's kind of like a family saga, but it was super unique because each chapter is told by a different character, and so we hear that character story in their chapter, and then the next chapter we move on to their descendant, and then that person's descendant, and so on. And so it starts off, we're following two half-sisters in Ghana in the 1700s. One of them ends up getting married off to a kind of wealthy Englishman, and she lives in the Cape Coast Castle. I believe that's what it's called. And so she's living kind of that lifestyle, and unbeknownst to her, her half-sister ends up getting captured and thrown into the dungeons of a said castle, and actually gets stolen and captured and thrown into slavery and shipped off to America. And so it kind of goes from there, where we see both sisters' stories, and we just follow down the line their descendants' stories as well. So we span hundreds of years. We see warfare and political unrest in Ghana. We see the other heroine making her way to the US. And so we see her life in slavery, we see plantations, we see Civil War times, we see the Great Migration, we end up going to Harlem, we see jazz clubs, we get so much history between all of them. So I loved in here how we were getting all of these characters' unique stories, but they were like woven together with the same kind of themes and hope. And even when these characters are going through tumultuous hard times, you know that there's like a little glimmer of hope, because you know they're gonna make it out, or make it out enough to have a descendant have the next story in the next chapter. And so it's just such a beautifully written story. I highly recommend reading this. So good. So much packed into this book. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to check out more from this author in the future. All right, so those were all of my 5-star favorites for July, August, and September of 2024. I love doing this style of video because it's so fun to just gush about some of my favorites and have a video just specifically for them. I will link the other 2 videos that I've done for this year as well, for the other quarters in the year. So if you want to see all of my 5-star reads, definitely go watch that. I would love to know what some of your 5-star reads were for this year so far, especially for July, August, and September. If you want to share any, definitely let me know. Always in the mood to hear what other people's favorite books are as well. If you'd rather leave me an emoji in the comments instead today, leave me, so I'm just looking at my sweatshirt, leave me a coffin, since we have these 2 creepy girls reading in the coffin because my spooky season hoodies and sweatshirts are back out. So yeah, leave me a coffin in the comments. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I will see you in my next one.